Hello and welcome to Lab 1 of Unit 1 in the Power Builder Fundamentals Self-Guided course. In Lab 1, we're going to look at the following. Create some common objects, including windows and controls. Identify and change some common object properties. Identify and add some code to some common Power Builder events. Using native Power Builder controls to build a window, and then store the window definition in a Power Builder library. And run the Power Builder application in the development environment. You're also going to need various student materials of documentation, how to build the various components as we go along for the Easy Order system. As you can see here, the icons for the versions of Power Builder that are supported in this course. We recommend, of course, that you use the most recent available version of Power Builder that you have installed. Just click on the icon above that matches your Power Builder IDE to download the rest of the related course materials, which we'll explain in later units coming up soon. For this particular lab, we're going to build an application object and try and open a window. Of course, first we have to build that window. This is going to be very simple. We'll just build what is going to be a calculator, and we'll put a command button on it that can close that window. So this will allow us to actually build something that actually opens a window, allows you to interact with it, and you at least can close it. And so we need to write at least one simple script on an event for some object to be able to do that. Note that this is an instructor-led exercise, so just sit back and relax, or if you'd like, use your copy of Power Builder to follow along. So if you remember that all the application fundamental materials should be located in your student folder on your folder Appian, and then subfolder Fundamentals. Within that, we have the demo folder. Dropping down from there, we have Lab 1-1. And down from there, we have this calculator, which is what we were talking about in the PowerPoint slide. So at this point, what we need to do is go back to Power Builder. Here we're actually using Power Builder 2017. And we need to use the File menu at the top, Open Workspace. And if you actually navigate to your hard drive, Appian, Fundamentals, Demos, Lab 1-1 subfolder, you'll see here that there is a workspace called Calculator, and the suffix file .pbw identifies this as a workspace file. Just double click this or highlight it and press the open button. As you can see now, we have an actual calculator, we have a window, we have an application object. If we were to actually run this application by hitting the blue jogger here, Run Calculator, you'll actually see the calculator window open. We can enter some value, for example, 33 in the first argument, and maybe 66 in the next one, and hit the Add button. And the result is, of course, a positive 99. And we have a Close button here to be able to actually close the window by just clicking the Close button. So the application works just fine, and you should be able to run it from your IDE as well. If we go back to File Manager, you'll notice that there's another subfolder called Build, where we've actually provided you an executable in the version of Power Builder that you're using. And double-clicking that executable will run the calculator without going through the Power Builder IDE. But again, the same result occurs. 55, for example, plus 44 added together is 99, or subtracted, the difference is 11. And we can close the actual calculator now as well. So this is how you would deploy the application to your end user. So we'll have a look and see how this is actually done. So just a few basic fundamentals here. Let's open the window, WCalc solution, that's being presented to you by double-clicking this in the what we call the system tree on the left-hand side. Double-clicking that will open the definition of that window that you see here. And you can see there's some objects on the surface of that window. If you wanted to do that yourself, we could actually build one from scratch. Let's do that now. So under the File menu, and you can see the submenu New, we're actually going to choose in the Center tab page Power Builder object the definition of a window. I'd like to build a window class. Hit the OK button when that's highlighted. And there you can actually see the window that we're going to build. The window itself needs some objects on the surface. So if you think about the calculator example that we just saw, we need some text objects as labels We need a data entry box, which PowerBuilder calls a single line edit, and we need some command buttons on the window as well. So this is actually very easy. We can go to the insert underneath that control, and you can see we have command buttons, which we need, text objects, which we definitely need, and then an edit box, which PowerBuilder calls a single line edit, to be able to do the job of the calculator. So choosing one of these, for example, a single line edit, I could just drop it in here. I need 3 of them. One for argument 1, one for argument 2, and then to display the result. So I'll just use the right-hand mouse button here and duplicate that and duplicate that. Now I have 3 single line edits. I can do the same thing again by going back to Insert Control, choosing Static Text, just clicking where I'd like to drop one in. I know I need 3 of those because I have 3 labels. So I'll just duplicate that one 3 times. And then it's just a case of actually lining things up. So I can just drag things around here pretty easily here in the painter. Because again, PowerBuilder is what you see is what you get. So this is happening in real time as I'm dragging stuff around. So I've got the basics here. I have 3 labels, I have 3 edit boxes, and I need 3 command buttons, of course. So again, Insert Control Command button, drop the first one in, right-hand mouse button duplicate, and then duplicate again. And now I have 3 command buttons for add, subtract, and close. So it's very easy at this point to continue on. And then just highlight, for example, the first command button. And we're going to basically change the text property here on the right-hand side. You can see this is the properties pane. And we have multiple panes available to us within the painter. Panes can be fixed or they can float. So you have the choice at this point, whether you want that information to float around or you would like to actually fix that pane in place by hitting the pin here at the bottom of the pane icon. So at this point here, we have changed the text to a minus. We go to this command button and we're going to change the text to a plus. And then we're going to go to this command button by just clicking on it and highlighting it and changing the text to close. I'm just going to save that by going under File, Save. That forces that definition in memory here in this painter to actually be saved to your PowerBuilder library. So the window I'm going to call here is, I'm going to call it My Calculator, just to differentiate it from the solution that was provided for you. So My Calculator. Typically, most people put a prefix at the beginning of an object name to differentiate the overall class, in this case, a window type. So I'll hit OK. And you can see here on the label of the painter, the window MyCalc was actually saved in the Calculator PowerBuilder library. And you didn't ask for it, but notice that PowerBuilder automatically inherited from an ancestor called the window class. So there's a lot of behavior that's already done here at this point in time because we've inherited your window from the Microsoft operating system definition. So notice at this point that if we were to choose here on the toolbar Preview, we can actually run this particular window at this point. And notice that the window knows how to move around, knows how to drop a control menu down, it knows how to minimize, restore itself, or close, or even resize for that matter, that by just grabbing the edges. You didn't have to program anything at that point. PowerBuilder didn't have to do anything. It's just the ancestor defined those particular behaviors, and those are automatically available to you. Edit boxes, for example, you can already enter information in. The only thing, of course, is we haven't written any code here, so doing the plus or minus or hitting the close button here, nothing happens. The button does have the ability here to highlight when the mouse is over it, or press in and out of the screen as you hit the primary mouse button. The same thing, for example, if I hit the space bar. You notice here I don't have to be using the mouse here. I can actually just use the space bar. That behavior comes from the operating system that PowerBuilder is automatically inherited from. So that standard look and feel comes down where you're actually working at this point. And I can use the X button. So you notice here in the slide behind us that it says if you write a script for the close button, we can actually close the window. So let's just close the actual preview at this point in time. We're going to write a script for the close button. Notice that we'll use the right-hand mouse button and choose script. It's basically choosing the event that's happening or the action being applied to the object at this point. For a command button, of course, we're interested in being clicked. And then we can actually say close. And open bracket, and then the name of the window, which of course is my calculator. And I can actually check to see if that'll compile okay by hitting the compile icon on the toolbar. If I don't get any errors, everything's okay. I'll make an error here just to show you what happens. So let's say, for example, close my calculator, and I'll choose the object name calcx, which of course doesn't exist. So if I choose the compile button again, now I get a split screen, another pane available here that within my scripting area that gives me an idea here that there's a warning at this point because it can't find this particular window. It doesn't exist yet. So I'm just going to remove the X. I'm going to hit the compile button again. And we can see here that there's no errors, there's no warnings, so everything is good to go. So we'll hit the save button here on the toolbar. You can also do a file save as well from the top-down pull-down menu. And then we'll go back and we'll execute a preview at this point. And you'll be able to actually close the window. Now you won't be able to actually do that when you hit the preview button because that's just giving you a, basically you can see here I'm clicking on the close buttons, nothing happens. It's just giving you a preview. So what I want to show you at this point is to actually, if you've written any code and you want to actually test it properly, just use the right hand mouse button and use the run preview. This is different here because the run actually will execute any of your code that you've added as well. So now at this point in time, now it'll actually just bring the particular object that's that you highlighted. So I don't want to run the solution here. I want to run the window that I'm just building. So I'll use the right-hand mouse button on that. Run preview my calculator. Now when I select the close button, it does close. So this at this point concludes building a simple window, opening it, and having the ability to actually write some code here on the close button. You notice here that we've been just playing around with properties. We're actually just giving it labels of text. We're writing some code, which is called a script, and we can actually test it properly. The look and feel we can get from just the preview button, but we can use the right-hand mouse button with the run preview to actually see exactly how our code is going to behave. What have we learned at this point? We've actually had a look at event-driven programming by selecting, for example, the clicked event on the command button. And we've also had a look at some dot notation as well, that because we have properties of an object. Encapsulation is a nice idea because you notice here that we don't have to know how the command button knows how to respond to the spacebar of the keyboard, or basically depress and respond back with the primary mouse button. That behavior is encapsulated in the ancestor and then given to us in the descendant. So we've actually had a look also at inheritance, how that's actually working within the PowerBuilder development environment. Because when you build something, you don't ask for it. We call this basically implied inheritance versus explicit inheritance, which will cover the difference as we go in through later units in this course. Also ask yourself, where is the processing taking place in this particular example? Is it on the client, the server, or the middle tier? So to test your knowledge, we're going to give you a little quiz now for it'll complete Unit 1 on Lab 1. If you can answer the questions correctly on these particular unit and lab, you're ready for, of course, Unit 2. So when you're ready, please click the arrow in the middle of the screen to proceed to Unit 2, or close this particular video, and you can always come back to the course when you're ready.